Hello, this is Roland. Welcome. Today I want to continue talking about heavenly state of mind, a heavenly attitude, or a heavenly state, which Christ spoke about in the Beatitudes. You see, I have the most wonderful translation of the Beatitudes from the Khabouris manuscript, written in Aramaic. And the translation by the Yonan Codex Foundation strove to check each and every word. They had a special method to try to get the very closest word or phrase in English to correspond to the subtle meaning of the Aramaic word. And it's just beautiful. So, when you read the Beatitudes in this translation, from this translation, you read, a heavenly attitude is theirs, those whose home is in the Spirit. Theirs is a heavenly state. A heavenly attitude is theirs, those mourning their wrongs, they shall be comforted. A heavenly attitude is theirs, those with humility, they will gain the earth. Okay? So, I won't read all of the Beatitudes. I just wanted to get started so you would hear the term, a heavenly attitude. Of course, if you watched my other videos, I've made several now on the Beatitudes and the Sermon on the Mount. They're excellent. Then you're familiar with this translation. Well, what I want to say to you is that the opposite of the heavenly attitude, or what is not the heavenly attitude, is the hypnotic state. You have a heavenly state, and you have a hypnotic state. Okay? Now, the hypnotic state is where most of us are most of the time. Most people are in a hypnotic trance. Often very mild, hardly noticeable, nevertheless a hypnotic trance. And the proof of it is that they're outer directed, outer stimulated, and emotional. The emotions are the proof that they're responding to outside direction and stimuli and suggestions and commands. They're in tune with their environment, whatever their environment happens to be. And bear in mind that our environment is not only nature, it's also people, and it's also spiritual. So, a heavenly attitude is when you're not hypnotized, when you're not in a trance. Now let me put it in some different terms. Let me start by saying that his name is Mr. Gailey. Can't think of his first name right now. He's a corporate hypnotist. He's excellent. One of the best, maybe the best. So anyway, he's very good. He has a PhD in psychology also. And he says that most people are hypnotized 80% of the time, maybe more. Okay. So let me use some other terms now to give you an idea what hypnosis means. Emotional, reactive, okay, distracted, lost in thought, goal setting, okay, irritated, angry, resentful, lost in thought, lost in thinking about the past, lost in planning the future. Okay, that is what hypnosis is. It's an abstracted state of mind. It's where you're separated from reality. See, the hypnotized person is separated from reality. It's also called psychosis, incidentally. Psychosis, separation from reality. Well, the hypnotized person is separated from reality by the rapport with the hypnotist, or what stands in for the hypnotist. Okay? So when you're caught up in your conversation on the iPhone, you're lost in that conversation. You're temporarily separated from reality. You're not totally there. Your kids come up and say, Mom, Mom, Mom. You don't hear them. You're lost in your conversation. When you're surfing the internet, when you're lost in a television program, you're watching the program. You're not totally aware of what's happening around you. When you're lost in a movie, when you're lost in music, you're not totally there. Those are all trances, mild trances, hypnotic states. And when you're distracted, when you're lost in thought, when you're sitting there lost in thought, you're not totally there. Your kids come up to you, Dad, Dad. What? You're not totally there. You get the idea. I don't have to go on and on about it. It's quite obvious. So, but what I'm trying to say is that that's not the heavenly state. It's not the heavenly state. Okay? So let's keep it very simple today. And let's look at it. Let's look at what Christ said in terms of this idea of the heavenly state. Not being lost in thought. Taking a mental step back. Getting the big picture. Versus the typical hypnotic state that we're in most of the time. Lost in our cell phone conversation. Lost in texting. Lost in a video game. Lost in worrying. Lost in thinking about the future. Lost in planning. Lost in whatever we're lost in. Watching the ball game. Lost in something or other. Daydreaming. Lost in daydreaming. So a little separation from reality, and there's an attachment to whatever it is that's holding your attention, or that has you lost in in some kind of a relationship, pulled in somehow to something. Okay, you see, an object can also capture your attention. You could be fascinated with something that you see, something that you want too much. You look into a jewelry store window, and there's a nice piece of jewelry and you want it, and you're looking at it and you get lost in looking at that jewelry. Well, at that moment someone could come up and take your iPhone or pick your pocket because you're not totally there. Okay? So now let's look at what Christ had to say. He said, for example, when you are mourning your wrongs, it's a heavenly state. What would be the opposite? The opposite would be defending your wrongs. See? And how do we defend our wrong? Well, how about making an excuse? If you do something that's a little bit foolish, a little bit dumb, you make a mistake, see? Then what? You make an excuse. What's that? It's denying it's denying the truth. Or you rationalize it, which is also denying the truth. Or try to justify it. See? Or try to sweep it under the carpet and hide the symptoms of what you did so nobody can see. And hide it from yourself. See how that's a separation from reality, from truth, from what is? Just making an excuse. Making an excuse is already a little bit of hypnosis. Okay? And that separates you from the heavenly state. Okay? He said, those with humility. So, if you're prideful, okay? And prideful is sustained, well, somewhat when people are telling you how wonderful you are, how great you are, you imagine yourself being great and wonderful and super smart and everything like that, which you really aren't. You're not that wonderful. Well, you see, you're accepting something that's not true. Unreality. In exchange for reality. So it's not the heavenly state. On the other hand, eventually, our pride is sustained mostly by what? By resentment. Judgment. We judge others. We resent them. We're angry at them. Well, when you're angry, you're reacting to the outside. It's not a heavenly state. Okay? When you're lost in thinking about what somebody did and what they said and how you're going to prove that they're wrong and how you're going to get even and how you're going to make them eat dirt and whatever else that you're thinking. See, you're caught up in thoughts. Reliving the past, trying to change the past, planning for the future. See? Hypnosis, distracted. Separated from reality. Okay? Some other things he said. He said, for example, remember he said, don't plan for tomorrow. See, he said, just ask for he said, the troubles of today are enough. That tomorrow will take care of itself. He said, consider the lilies of the field. They neither toil, but yet look how beautifully they're arrayed. So what's he saying? He said, don't get lost in planning and scheming. Don't get lost in goal setting. So if you're goal setting, which usually are not your goals anyway, they're given to you. But if you're goal setting, if you're planning and scheming, then you're lost you're not in the moment. You're not in the heaven, you're separate, you're not in the heavenly state. It's in the hypnotic state. See? One hypnotist, a famous hypnotist, I can't remember which one it was, but he defined hypnosis as a monoideic trance. In other words, a one-idea trance. Well, what is goal setting? Or what is it that when you want to say, here's a good example of this, see? You know, some people who are obsessed with something, you can see there's something wrong with that. But here's just a classic example of a little hypnotic trance, not the heavenly state, but the hypnotic state that you might enjoy hearing. You know how when two people meet, when two people are talking, one person is often thinking about what he wants to say. So the other person is saying something, but what he's doing is he's just nodding, but he's waiting to say what he wants to say. Sometimes he doesn't even hear what the other person is saying because he has this monoideic trance. He's fixated on the goal of saying something. See? See how that's separation from reality? It's not good. Okay? So Christ said to live in reality, not to plan and scheme. Put first the kingdom of heaven, and all other things will be added unto you. But when you're planning and scheming all the things you want to do and accomplish and prove and so on, see? That doesn't mean that you can't, if you're going on a trip, that you can't make a list of the items you're going to take with you, of course. Or if you're going on a hiking trip, that you got to take some food and water with you, of course. Okay, or you're going to work and it's raining, well, you take your umbrella, or you put your umbrella by the door the night before, so in the morning you won't forget to take it. See, I mean that's okay, but the kind of planning and scheming where you somehow to glorify your ego, to be great, to be glorious, to be wonderful, to have people admire you. See, to accumulate things for yourself, to lord it over other people, to somehow to build yourself up. See, he said not to do that. But can you see how worry is also, what is worry? It's being lost in thought. So he said, don't worry about tomorrow, didn't he? Because when you're worried, you're lost in thought, you're in hypnotic state. You're abstracted, distracted from reality, distracted by your thoughts. See? So you could go through all of these Beatitudes in the whole Sermon on the Mount. And you could say, okay, this is what he says is the heavenly state. And this is what he says is not the heavenly state, or what we shouldn't do. And when you look at what he says is not the heavenly state, or what you shouldn't do, you'll see that it's being caught up in something, making something too important, having some goal, being lost in thought, lost in work, see? Lost in a video game. It's not the heavenly state. So you have to find a way to go through life where you don't get caught up in things. It doesn't mean that you can't play a video game, although it's kind of a waste of time. I could see playing for half an hour once a week or something. I could see some kids need some kind of stimulation, so I could see some teenager playing a video game, or see, instead of playing chess, I can see. I don't think it's good, but I can see it, okay? But can you see how most people are not mature enough to do things without getting caught up in them. They get caught up in everything. They're not mature enough. They're not mature enough to listen to music. The question is, why aren't 16-year-olds airline pilots? 16-year-olds have great reflexes. Okay? 16-year-olds are have great manual dexterity. But they don't have the wisdom. They don't have the maturity. They're not mature enough. Okay? The basic idea is that they're not mature enough. So I'm just making a little analogy. Most people are not mature enough to listen to music. When they listen to it, it's like the music is glorifying them. It's like the song is to them, to make them feel great, like a god, like a goddess. See? So they become corrupted by it for that reason. It's not the heavenly state. So a person can be sitting in church, singing church music or listening to church music and feel very wonderful about themselves. And they're distracted by, caught up in the feeling, see, that their ego likes, and they are not in the heavenly state. They're in the hypnotic state. So the hypnotic state is technically not good. Okay? It's not. So when you're driving down the freeway, thinking about what happened, and you drive right past the exit on the freeway you were supposed to take, well, that's not good. But just understand that you have to find out, you can't, if you live your whole life that way, you won't find the heavenly state that Christ spoke about. And you have to find this heavenly state if you want God to enter your life. And all the good things that can follow that, then you have to find the heavenly state. So you have to find a way not to get caught up in things, not to get caught up in worry, not to get caught up in planning and scheming, not to get caught up in making anything too important. See? So this is definitely food for thought, something for you to think about. Maybe you can see then why little meditation like I have to help you to stand back, get the big picture, get out of being lost in thought, having a little detachment, a little mental distance. Perhaps you can see how it could be a useful tool, a powerful tool to get you started back to being in the heavenly state that Christ spoke about. Okay? My name is Roland.